What's going on, everybody? It's Floowandereeze here, coming at you with a brand new video. So, we're on a brand new month of Yu-Gi-Oh! And with all the crazy things that happened back in May, the format has shaken up quite a bit. Between new product releases, big events, and of course the May 2022 Forbidden and Limited List updates, players have been coming up with many new ways to innovate their deck for the new format. And with product being delayed yet again, and the only implications of a new Forbidden and Limited List coming out December 25th, as it said, before it was changed to in a few months again, there's no telling how long we can be in this particular format until something shifts again. With that being said, as the informative channel that I claim to be, I'm going to give you guys a heads up on what to look out for in this national season for the competitive scene. And so, I bring you my top 5 meta decks of the June 2022 format. Before we get started here, I do want to say that this is not only based on statistics, but also based on the opinions of me and other creators in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Space, and so with that being said, please do not harass me, any other creators, or anyone in any comments section over this, because it's completely unneeded, and at the end of the day, it's just a game. But with that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Starting off our list at number 5 is going to be Floowandereeze. Flunder has been doing absolutely incredible lately, with no hits in the slightest on the Forbidden and Limited List, and nothing stopping their playstyle as a whole. It stands out among the crowd by not special summoning and being a relatively affordable anti-meta choice, being able to use powerful floodgates such as Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds, Dimension Shifter, and of course their very own Floowandereeze M-Pen. The deck doesn't care at all about the rampant Scythe lock that's still going around in a lot of the prominent decks right now, and with cards such as Unexplored Winds, they have an out to just about any strong monster in the game. Top strategies like Despia are running less hand traps compared to before in order to run things like gas and board breakers instead, meaning that your normal summon Robina and Eaglin plays are more likely to go off without a hitch. For all of these reasons, I'm happy to let Flunder start off our list at number 5. Coming in at number 4, people have been dying for this deck to rot away somewhere else. But no matter how hard you try, he just keeps rising out of his fabulous grave. That's right, folks, Eldlich is going to take our number 4 slot on this list. The Golden Lord himself has been around in the competitive scene since its release in Secret Slayers all the way back in 2020, and right now it's especially in full swing. With the Synchro variant being the most popular one to play right now, there's really a lot of different ways to play the Eldlich strategy. The deck has always seen some sort of success here, being able to run playsets of things like Skill Drain, Gozen Match, and Lord of the Heavenly Prison, but we've also seen the rise of the branded package with things like Super Poly in it, which allows it to be more than just Trap Card Turbo. Of course, the most important build innovating the playstyle right now is the Synchro variant, using engines like the P.U.N.K engine in order to access level 8 Synchros like Chaos Ruler, who can mill the top 5, not only allowing you to add a Golden Lord or some other card potentially, but also sending all of your traps that you reveal to the graveyard so that you can trigger their effects later. With the core cards made extremely affordable by Maximum Gold Eldorado having low rarity printings, the only expenditures you really need to budget for is whatever you decide to play the deck with. The package is so easy and flexible to splash into anything else, you can combine it with basically anything that allows graveyard setup. I'm personally building a P.U.N.K Synchro variant of the deck, but I'm also throwing in a Zombie World package with Necroworld Banshee and Zombie World, of course, which is really strong right now due to how powerful Zombie World is as a floodgate, and another great way to play the deck. Remember, zombies did just get all that stuff in Dimension Force. This beautiful golden boy doesn't seem like he's going anywhere anytime soon, and for that reason, he's going to be taking number 4 on our list. Joining us for the first time on one of these lists, they're hip, they're trendy, they're not gonna let any rules hold them back as they rebel against the machine. Number 3 is going to be P.U.N.K variants. So this deck is a spin on the typical pile variants that we've been seeing over the past few formats, using the P.U.N.K engine in ways we had never seen before. The banning of Mecha Phantom Beast or Waradon was sad for those playing the engine, until Dimension Force came out and allowed the deck to just say, "Oh no!" Anyways, as they received P.U.N.K Deerno, a level 5 monster for the archetype that not only gives you access to powerful level 8 synchros such as Chaos Ruler, Psyframe Lord Omega, Borlode Savage Dragon, etc., but also revives another P.U.N.K monster from the graveyard if she's sent from the field, allowing you to access things like Crystron Halka Fibrax for your combos, or even to go into the powerful level 11 Synchro Psychic End Punisher, who is essentially made for the P.U.N.K strategy given not only his level, but also the life point related effects. This archetype also works really well with another archetype that was released in Dimension Force, being the Therians. Like the rest of the smaller P.U.N.K monsters, Zeoman is a psychic type which works with Therian's Duke, Deerno is a warrior which works with Therian's Bull, and who can forget the almighty Therian's King Regulus, the level 8 machine monster, which of course not only gives you an Omni Negate, but also allows you to get a free level 8 for your level 11 Synchro plays. Any version that you play can also take advantage of the Adventure engine, with Emergency Teleport having been put to 3 a couple of lists ago. You don't really need your normal summon at all in order to access your full combos off of just one card, typically being a Crystron Halka Fibrax, in order to access a Scythe Lock, which not only accesses the Scythe, but also a free level 10 Synchro, typically in the form of Baronetta Fleur. People thought I was being a bit too harsh on this strategy on my tier list, where I put it in the top of tier 2 and later moved it to 1.5, because I do think people still need to find out how to counter the deck in order for it to actually show its true tier, but I will be putting P.U.N.K variants at number 3 on this list because the decks are very strong, and I would like to redeem the little bit of doubt that I had in it at first. To be number 2 on this list, or not to be number 2 on this list? That is the question. And the answer, my dear viewer, is Despia. It comes to nobody's surprise that Despia is in the top 5 decks, right? Ever since the release of the Albaz Strike Structure deck back in March, Despia has been topping and winning events left and right, seeing a huge wave of representation, and while it has died down a little bit, it is still a dominant threat in the competitive scene. It's a surprisingly tame deck, usually ending on less than 2 monsters, but is able to utilize cards such as Branded in Red to capitalize off of other cards like Guardian Chimera, which can net 1 to 2 pops and 1 to 2 draws. Not to mention the advantage they gain from using things as fusion material off of Branded in Red. The strength of the deck lies not just in the ability to weave through hand traps through their 1-card interactions, but also the amount of follow-up and advantage they can get off of their native cards. Guardian Chimera drawing them up to 2 cards aside, they can also play cards like Allure of Darkness, which is usually an even trade, but with things like Despian Tragedy, it can actually turn into a +1. And most of their cards actually do allow them to go even, so while you are using things as fusion material, you typically get them back in some way, shape, or form so that you're never really losing more advantage than your opponent. Cards like Branded Lost being a pseudo-magical meltdown effect is really good for preventing cards like Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion, Effect Veiler, and in some cases Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring from being used against you, allowing your combos to go off without a hitch while your opponent is left with a bunch of dead hand traps in hand. Mirror Jade is also one hell of a boss monster, as non-targeting banish that sense for cost aside, being able to nuke your opponent's entire board just for them outing it is pretty strong. Not much has changed about the deck recently, especially on the last Forbidden and Limited list, so I won't talk about it for too long, but just know that Despia is one of your main threats to look out for, so you'd better be prepared. Before we get into the final pick of this list, I'd like to go over a few honorable mentions that didn't quite make the list. Dragon Link is an incredible deck right now, taking full advantage of things like the Adventure Engine and Christian Halka Fibrax to make decent endboards, but become more deadly as you try to break them. Horatic Seal of Heavenly Spheres, for example, not only gets to bounce a card, which is already pretty strong, but allows you to special a free dragon from your deck. Typically what you summon is Rocket Tracer to make up for the follow-up that the deck doesn't seem to natively have, or if you're an old school player, you can summon something like a Morphage Goliath, which is a powerful floodgate for sure. But some Dragon Link players are even using this to take advantage of things like Fallen of Albaz, which is a dragon, to super poly the opponent's board on their turn to make powerful cards like Mirror Jade. The only thing preventing me from putting Dragon Link at any point on this list is the release of Alba Lenitus the Abyss Dragon in Dimension Force, which turns any deck utilizing Fallen of Albaz into a dragon-chewing machine. This can be seen by less tops than usual at an event like YCS Hartford, which, while Despia didn't take up a massive chunk of top 32, it still took up a sizable portion and saw a lot of representation in Swiss. Not to mention things like Branded Eldlich as well. For now, while Dragon Link is a very acceptable pile deck, the threat of setting Fallen of Albaz from your opponent, being able to wipe your entire board, is a bit of a problem and is the one thing preventing me from putting it on here. Our next honorable mention is... Wait a minute. You're not Sky Striker. Get out of here, Mystic Mind. Go! Out! Hate that guy. Jokes aside, I actually don't have any more honorable mentions after Dragon Link, as I don't think a deck like Sky Striker deserves to be here. It's just not very strong enough to actually put on the list because it's just Mystic Mind Turbo. Sorry guys. One more thing before we get to the final pick of the list. If you have enjoyed the video so far or found it helpful, please be sure to leave a like, as it helps you know you guys actually enjoy these videos, and believe me when I say that it and commenting are the best ways to push these into the algorithm. If you want to see more content like this, and you want to see more awesome Yu-Gi-Oh content, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Now that I'm out of school officially, I have a lot more time to actually make videos for you guys and more awesome Yu-Gi-Oh content, and I'm going to try to grow the channel and my community further. And subscribing helps me continue to make the content that allows the channel to grow and thrive. Now without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the #1 pick of my top 5 meta decks for the June 2022 format. The sheer power of this deck will have you shaking to your very soul. Your sword soul, that is. That's right, if you haven't figured it out yet, the #1 deck on this list is Tenyi Swordsoul. Despite the banning of Auroradon on the last Forbidden and Limited list, which a lot of builds actually took advantage of to both start and play through hand traps, the deck keeps chugging along like nothing ever happened. It did receive a second copy of Desires at least, which, you know, is the optimal ratio in my opinion, allowing it to be more consistent than it was before and see its combo pieces more frequently. Instead of playing through hand traps using the Hulk package, they actually choose to play around them now, with things like Heavenly Dragon Circle being able to protect your things like Moye from infinite impermanence, but will also immediately access you Tenyi Spirit Sthana, which not only allows you to special summon it because you now have no effect monsters, but is a level 4 non-tuner that you can use with the token you just summoned to go into Chixiao and continue your plays as usual. Despite the surface simplicity of the Swordsoul cards, the Tenyi cards are what allows the deck to really shine. Not only allowing you to play through hand traps and awkward hands a little bit better, but also giving you follow-up with things like Ashuna and Adhara, removal with Vishuddha, and punishment for your opponent with things like Sthana. Without the need for a P.U.N.K engine for easier access to Auroradon like before, the deck has a lot more room for hand traps, meaning that you can use your 1.5 to 2 card combos very easily while stopping your opponent from stopping you. It's also super easy to actually draw these hand traps through the middle of your combo with things like Swordsoul of Moye and Qixing Longmon, allowing you to replenish your resources very quickly, which can also net you an extra synchro on your end board, typically something like Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. Swordsoul has been incredibly strong since its release back in Burst of Destiny in October of 2021, but while it is the best deck of the format and has been the best deck of the format for the past couple, it's not overly dominant and has a lot of really strong competition to keep it in check, which is something really great about this current format, as no one deck completely snuffs out another. But that won't be stopping Tenyi Swordsoul from being the #1 pick on this list. Thank you all so much for watching my top 5 meta decks for the competitive June 2022 format. I like to think this is a fairly accurate list, but if you think I missed anything or should have said something else, feel free to respectfully tell me in the comments below. If you ask, I'll usually try and explain my reasoning there. But with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed, because that's going to do it for the video. If you liked it, please be sure to leave a like, as it helps put this video and the channel into YouTube recommended. And if you really liked it and you want to see more awesome Yu-Gi-Oh content like this, then perhaps consider subscribing, because we're on our way to 1,500 subscribers, and it helps the channel more than anything else. Plus, it's absolutely free. But once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Aurora, signing off.